And this copyright disclaimer, you know it. Space may be the final frontier, but it's filmed in a Hollywood basement. Alright? So, according to Kissinger, if you know who that is, one of the other elite / reptilian / some say Illuminati. You know what I mean? Research all that, man. I'm just trying not to focus on these punks, but this is what he says. It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true. You see what he's saying? They control the illusion. They control Hollywood, TV, radio, media. They have you believe in a story, a fiction, illusion, right?
Anyway, so he's doing the spacewalk and he's got this harness on. He's holding on to this like thing, and it was apparently just an image that had already been published of him in a training exercise, and they blacked out the background and flipped the picture upside down. That's the joint right there. It's the same exact photo. Same exact photo. I mean, people have lined it up and switched it over. It's the same photo. It's just been edited. So the one on the left was them practicing how to use these. I guess that the harness is some sort of a thing that he's hanging onto. Right, I guess it moves him around a little bit. Right. They were trying to practice it on the left, and on the right, they just passed it off. If that is already been proven, that they took this fake photograph and they tried to pass it off as a real spacewalk, it's entirely possible that some of the stuff that they filmed, they made out to look like they were on the moon when they were not.
Business Insider, Military and Defense. And it says 9 Nazi scientists who helped build the American space program. As World War II drew to a close, the United States rushed to collect as many former Nazi scientists as possible through a secret mission called Operation Paperclip. As some had been branded war criminals at Nuremberg, the US military whitewashed the background of many scientists in an attempt to justify hiring them. Knowing that trouble was brewing already with the Soviet Union, these scientists were employed by the US in a wide variety of roles, including at times experimenting with LSD. Below are some of the most influential former Nazis who played unquestionably large roles in America's emerging technological dominance during the Cold War. And they talking about NASA, creation of NASA. As you can see, Business Insider. Who was these people? Who created NASA?
Astronauts are really, really good at making pictures in space that look like you've never left the planet. In fact, it's almost hard-pressed to tell whether you're in space or not in this picture. You know, we've got some fancy backdrops, I guess.
So it says here, Aleister Crowley, Jack W. Parsons, Ron L. Hubbard, Werner von Braun, Walt Disney. What does an avowed occultist, the founder of JPL and NASA, a science fiction writer, and founder of the Church of Scientology, an ex-Nazi turned America's foremost rocket scientist, and Walt Disney, founder of the Magic Kingdom, have in common? Oh, you might be surprised the extent of their collaborative efforts in Babylon on behalf of Horus, Mars, and alien life forms. Yes, you might be real surprised indeed. This is stranger than fiction. Then again, magic, alien, space travel, and science have a lot more in common than you might think. Then again, do Americans do all that much thinking? Yes, you'll be very surprised. NASA founder. Alright, so this is what Google gives us. Google tells us Dwight Eisenhower is the founder of NASA, right? I'm like, man, when I see this, I'm like, come on, man. You know, scientists and shit like that, come on. So if you scroll down a little bit, right under, I'm sure they gave him the credit, and he was, you know, he was president probably during when, you know, but I'm gonna show you who was running shit Alright, so we got Werner von Braun. Okay, and it says Werner Magnus Maximilian was a German, later American aerospace engineer and space architect, credited with inventing the V-2 rocket for Nazi Germany and the Saturn V for the United States. He was the leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Germany and father of rocket technology and space science in the United States. Following World War II, he was secretly moved to the United States, along with 1,500 other scientists, engineers, and technicians as part of Operation Paperclip. Research that. Operation Paperclip, how they brought the Nazis over here to work after the World War II was supposedly over. Because it's the same people running both sides, and you know, that's another topic, but you know who's running the world. These elite, these international bankers, Zionists, you know, these Satanists and these followers of the fallen, you know what I'm talking about? So, where he developed the rockets that launched the United States' first space satellite Explorer 1 and the Apollo program, manned lunar landings. So who was he? He was the one behind the technology, right? In NASA, like he was the main guy right there. Followed after the war, United States Army on an intermediate range ballistic missile program before his group was assimilated into NASA. Before his group was assimilated into NASA. Under NASA, he served as director of the newly formed Marshall Space Flight Center, as the chief architect of the Saturn V launch vehicle, the super booster that propelled the Apollo spacecraft to the moon. Military career, allegiance, Nazi Germany, service branch, SS. 8 years of service. Stump Major, Sturmbannfahrer Major, Knight's Cross of the War Merit Cross with swords, War Merit Cross. He did a lot of shit over there. This ain't no holy guy, all right? But that's their boys. They protect these people. It says on June 20, 1945, the U.S. Secretary of State approved the transfer of von Braun and his specialists to America. However, this was not announced to the public until October 1st, 1945. Werner Don, to his credit, Don opposed the Nazis, it says here. Sure. Resisted joining the party until given no other option. Okay. So it says, after Paperclip, Dan made huge contributions to the U.S. space race. He worked on the Saturn V booster rocket, aerothermodynamics, and liquid hydrogen propellant system. Understand? For his work, he became chief of the Aerophysics Division of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center before becoming chief aerodynamicist at NASA Center. You see who these people are. Herman H. Kurwek. There's not even no photos of him, but there goes his creations right there, right? Gold. The German V-2 rocket, one of the main projects Kurwek worked on. Kurwek was a chief researcher and deputy director of the V-2 rocket program. After Paperclip, Kurwek became technical director of Naval Ordnance Laboratory in Maryland, where he continued his aerodynamics and aeroballistics research. Later, he became a chief researcher at NASA, investigating aerodynamics and flight mechanics. Conrad Dannenberg. Dannenberg worked closely with von Braun, helping develop the V-2 rocket. He also helped organize and launch the first object ever to be sent into space by humans. After Paperclip, Dannenberg continued to work closely on his former subjects. He helped the United States to produce rocket engines and missiles. Eventually, he also became deputy manager of the Saturn program, which focused on creating engines for launching both satellites and space shuttles into space. Okay? So far, you see what I'm talking about, right? Kurt Heinrich Debus with von Braun. They're homies, you know? Look at that. Selling you the illusion. Disney directors and stuff. Paramount. Research it. De Booz was another member of the SS who helped work on and produce V-2 rockets for the Nazis. He was closely associated with von Braun and was responsible for leading the testing of the V-2 rockets. After the war, De Booz became a prime asset for NASA. His accomplished work on a variety of programs, including launching satellites and the eventual moon mission, led to him becoming the first ever director of the Kennedy Space Center. First director of the Kennedy Space Center. Walter Robert Dornberger, right? It says Dornberger was a major general in the army of the Third Reich. He was a senior artillery commander and had personal contact with Hitler. Okay, you see who this person is? His real passion and skills lay in engineering, and he was foundational in the development of the rockets for the Nazis. After the war, Dornberger continued his engineering research for the U.S. He spent time developing guided missile systems for the U.S. military before becoming the vice president of the Bell Aircraft Corporation. Bell. He developed Bell's Rascal, the first guided nuclear air-to-surface missile. You see that? That's Hitler's boy. Where he turned up. Eberhard Friedrich Michael Rees. Rees was another researcher focused on the development of the B-2 rocket for the Third Reich, although reportedly Rees' passion always lay with space. After the war, Rees managed to follow his passions. He developed ablative heat shields for NASA, and he became the deputy director of development operations for the Army Ballistic Missile Agency. He also directed the Lunar Roving Vehicle Program before becoming the director of the Marshall Space Flight Center. Okay? The Marshall director. Ernst Stullinger started his career as a Nazi soldier. He fought in the Battle of Moscow and Battle of Stalingrad before being shifted into research. Eventually, he came to work on guidance systems under von Braun. After the Paperclip, Stullinger was brought in as director. He was brought in as director right away of the Advanced Research Projects Division of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency. He also contributed greatly to the space race, as he was one of the pioneers of electric propulsion. He also worked on the initial phases of the Hubble telescope. The telescope that's showing us space, right? The luminaries, the stars, right? But it's black out there. We just saw that. Hubertus Strughold. Look at him. It says Strughold, pay attention now, has been accused of participating in extensive human experimentation under the Third Reich, though it has never been proven. Yeah, right. Obviously, you know why it hasn't been proven. They're all in it. That's their boys, the newspaper, the media. They're not gonna rat on their boy, right? Unless he falls out of line and he's not with them anymore, then they'll put him in the news. Talking about he's a pedophile, child molester, all that stuff, like they always do. But the experiments he allegedly oversaw included performing surgery without anesthetic and depriving people of oxygen in vacuum compartments, as well as human experiments related to hypothermia. These experiments were meant to determine the effects of high altitude and supersonic flights on human beings. After the war, Strughold helped to pioneer the field of space medicine. He was vital in the investigation into the effects of weightlessness on people, as well as overseeing the buildings of space cabin simulators at NASA. Strughold also played a central role in designing the pressure suit and onboard life support systems used by Gemini and Apollo astronauts.
Absolutely. I don't know enough about astrophysics, about space travel, about the science that's, the work that's been done, about how to get a rocket to the moon and back. I definitely don't know enough.
It's rocket science.
And I've looked at a lot of very compelling documentaries that explain why they think it was hoaxed. And they'll show you some footage and you can look at some of the footage, and it looks fake as fuck. There's some footage that, to me, looks really doctored. There's
To this day?
Yeah, to this day. There's some when you ever seen ones where it looks like they're on wires, like the astronauts are on wires?
Well, for psychological issues, actually, when we are selected as astronauts, we go through quite a vigorous psychological screening process. You certainly don't want somebody who comes up here and has a breakdown or is claustrophobic.
Yeah. Yeah, right there in space. Check this out. Alright, watch when he grabs him right there. Boom, yeah, he grabbed him right, put him down. Alright, watch this. Alright, grab right there. What? He didn't grab anything. He grabbed behind him. Watch again. Watch his shirt get pulled a little bit. Look at his pants. Yeah, his pants are already. You can see the little pointy thing. It's gonna pull even more when he grabs it right here. Boom. Now watch this. He's grabbing a wire. Look how the pants is already sticking out a little bit. That's the wire. Now he's gonna grab that same wire, jank it to hold him down. Look at it. Alright. I wanna show you this picture. So that's Von Braun with Walt Disney. Yes, Walt Disney. It says here, Walt Disney left, Werner von Braun right. Dr. Werner von Braun, the Chief Guided Missile Development Operation Division at Army Ballistic Missile Agency, ABMA, in Redstone Arsenal, Alabama, was visited by Walt Disney in 1954. In the 1950s, von Braun worked with Disney Studio as a technical director, making 3 films about space exploration for television, a model of the V-2 rocket in its background. So, von Braun was a director. So it says here, T. Cleve Gleanan, NASA Administrator, August 1958. August 1958, January 20 to 1961. Very important years. Thomas Keith Gleanan was the first administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, formally established on October 1st, 1958, under the National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958. While at NASA, Gleanan was president on leave of the Case Institute of Technology, Cleveland, Ohio, which he had headed since 1947 and returned to following his NASA experience. It says, so, born in Eldon, North Dakota, Dr. Gleanan earned a degree in electrical engineering from the Sheffield Scientific School of Yale University, 1927, Yale. Skull and Bones, Yale University. Following graduation, he became associated with the newly developed sound motion picture industry. So it says following graduation, so before he was in NASA, right after college, he became associated with the newly developed sound motion picture industry and later became Assistant General Service Superintendent for Electrical Research Products Company, a subsidiary of Western Electric Company. During his career, he was a studio manager for Paramount Pictures Incorporated and Samuel Goldwyn Studios. If you guys know who these are, okay? And was briefly on staff of Vega Airplane Corporation. So before NASA, he was into the sound motion picture industry. And he was also studio manager at Paramount Pictures. And we read already the von Braun. So what all you see, so you got a bunch of Nazis and also a bunch of these people who actually had experience before in Hollywood and had studios and everything, helping to basically found NASA, right? And you see these fake moon landings, man. Look, just go on Google. Fake moon land, fake. Look, I didn't even put moon, and they threw moon at me. Fake. Look, just put it, it's just gonna come out. It's just gonna, some of them are really, really thoroughly researched, and if you watch and you'll see, man, do your own research. So, okay, so we already know about Dentu, and if you start studying Walt Disney, his occult, ties and, all that stuff, you'll find a lot of stuff, man. Try not to focus on all that negative stuff, because I'm trying to help you, again, remember, right? So we gotta know a little bit of the dark side, because you gotta know your enemy. The Art of War, Sun Tzu, you know what I'm saying? So, they talked about Jack Parsons, okay? Jack Parsons. It's actually John, but if you put John, it won't come out. But if you put Jack, it comes out. Jack Parsons, rocket engineer. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about Jack. Jack. Okay. So it says John Whiteside Jack Parsons, born Marvel Whiteside Parsons, was an American rocket engineer, rocket propulsion researcher, chemist, and Thelemite occultist. Associated with the California Institute of Technology, Parsons was one of the principal founders of both the Jet Propulsion Laboratory (JPL) and the Aerojet Engineer Corporation. He invented the first rocket engine to use as castable composite rocket propellant, and pioneered the advancement of both liquid fuel and solid fuel rockets. So this is a pretty important in NASA in those times. Imagine, right before it was being founded, all these guys are getting together. Okay, so it says, after a brief involvement with Marxism in 1939, Parsons converted to Thelema, the English occultist Aleister Crowley's new religious movement. This is Wikipedia. In 1941, alongside with his first wife Helen Northrop, Parsons joined the Agape Lodge, the California branch of the Thelemite Ordo Templi Orientis, okay, at Crowley's bidding. Sent for him, like, get over here, dog, join my order. You're in NASA, we got this. He replaced Wilfred Talbot Smith as its leader in 1942, so he was like the Grand Master of that order, and ran the lodge from his mansion on Orange Grove Avenue. Okay, Parsons was expelled from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in 1940 due to the lodge's infamy and allegedly illicit activities, along with his hazardous workplace conduct. Okay, and if you want to know what they mean by that, if you read about what he was doing with all the satanic stuff with the kids and all this shit ritual they were doing, that's why he got kicked out, right? And you think they didn't know all that stuff? And you think he didn't team up with von Braun and Disney, who also have history of that? He's a Nazi coming. They were doing that to the Jews over there, experimenting. All right, so all these guys are getting together, right? This is the guy with his pointy ears. Okay, maybe they don't have such a. Here's an interesting one. Aleister Crowley. Okay, so see who this Aleister Crowley is. Okay, I don't need to say anything, just read about it, man. Just read about it, He says, man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when how he will. Okay, so he don't want to follow the order, man. So he's telling you to do whatever you want, all right? Play as you will, okay? And so that's why they do all these satanic stuff, man, and with little kids and molest all this, Pizzagate and all that bullshit, So, I didn't want to bring you this far, but I just want you to see what NASA is all about, okay? In the hope that its involvement will bring about greater public interest in the future of space program, von Braun also began working with Walt Disney and Disney Studios as a technical director, initially for the 3 television films about space exploration. The initial broadcast devoted to space explorations was Man in Space, which first went on air March 9, 1955, drawing 40 million viewers. Alright, so what they were doing, they were pushing this idea of space to the public, because before then nobody was talking about stuff like that, man. It didn't exist. NASA didn't even exist. Okay, so what was he doing? Marketing. Before that. Okay. Later, 1959, von Braun published a short booklet condensed from episodes that had appeared in this week's magazine before describing his updated concept of the first manned lunar landing. The scenario included only a single relatively small spacecraft, a winged lander, and a crew of only 2 experienced pilots who had already circumnavigated the moon on an earlier mission. The brute force direct XN flight schedule used a rocket design with 5 sequential stages. So he was already designing these things and telling people he was going to do it. All right. So what did we learn from Californication? Space may be the final frontier, but it's filmed in a Hollywood basement. Okay, so you can see that early on we have some connection with studios and NASA pioneers, like this guy, Nazi NASA pioneers. Look at this, in the United States. This is from NASA. Werner von Braun worked with Disney Studios as technical director. There we go. So it says here, NASA chose Paramount, high performance lighting, specialized environments. Check this out. Our application photo galleries for this blog showcase adverse lighting conditions, circa 1960. We hope you are learning and discovering more about the variety of diverse areas Paramount has successfully illuminated. You see, so they need a lot of lighting for their studios, right?
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this can harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation.
But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation.
Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. For this flight, it's time to head home.
Alright, so if you know space, right, our solar system, you know that well, any astronaut or anybody that knows would tell you that the moon is right after the Van Allen belt. It's after that. So this guy is saying before we can pass, you know what I mean? He's saying before we can do it. Okay, so how did the moon Apollo missions do it? How did they pass the Van Allen belt with less technology? How did they do it with their technology from the 60s and we can't even do it now?
Anyone wants to come forward?
Nice to meet you. Good, how are you?
Pleasure to meet you, sir. Welcome to TC.
Thank you. Awesome.
That's a close-up. Anyone wants to come forward? Anyone wants to come forward?
Chroma key means you can use any background that you like. This is what the background looks like. This is the true background that we filmed this on. With chroma key, it means you can have any background that you like this, or maybe this, or maybe this. New commander of International Space Station, Captain Wilmar Butch.
Thank you, man. Astronauts are really, really good at making pictures in space that look like you've never left the planet. In fact, it's almost hard-pressed to tell whether you're in space or not in this picture. You know, we've got some fancy backdrops, I guess.
So there you go. He's telling you, oh, we got some fancy backdrop. That's green screen. I've seen them do green screens.
However, NASA has an aircraft known as the Vomit Comet. And when this aircraft takes a certain flight path, the people inside feel weightlessness. Happens here. As the plane starts its zero-G dive, the people start to spontaneously float upwards. The other problem with this technique is that this aircraft can only simulate zero gravity in 45-second to a minute bursts. So NASA employs many little tricks here to simulate weightlessness. None of their footage is live, it's all pre-recorded and edited, so plenty of scope there to use some of the cinematic tricks that we're used to, like harnesses and wires that are edited out later with CGI.
There's some where there's a video where they look like they're on a trampoline, they're bouncing around on trampolines. Mm-hmm. The physics are different in different videos. This is where it gets weird. Like the physics are different from the Apollo 11 moon landing. You see them waddle around on the surface of the moon. They're moving at like half speed. And then you see them in other ones, like the one where they bounce around the air. You're like, wow, they're moving different. They're in the same thing, but it looks different. The first one was very grainy. They showed it on a projection screen.
Number 10. Lights, Camera, Hoax. In light of the new Star Wars movie, let's go out of our way to explore a little space, the final frontier. Though America did claim to have done some of this exploring by land on the moon in 1969, there is intense deliberation as to the legitimacy of this event. Maybe after these reasons you'll start thinking, that's no moon. Anyways, in space, at least this solar system, there is only one light source available, the sun. Using basic lighting knowledge, all the shadows should fall in the same direction since all the light comes from one direction. Basic stuff. But to the misfortune of NASA, in photos it's really clear that the shadows go in different directions, offering a strong case against the truth of the moon landing. It is very plausible that there were actually multiple different lights showing that there was more to this event than what they've been telling us. Explanations include hills on the moon's surface causing reflections of light, making discrepancies in the shadows. Despite that, the evidence is extremely controversial. It just doesn't make sense that the shadows would be that different. But I mean, I'm no scientist. Number 9. That's rad. To reach the moon, first you have to pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. Doesn't sound as exciting as a meteor belt, but it's hundreds of times more dangerous. To travel through it, it would take a serious amount of armor plating to withstand lethal doses of radiation. Radaways don't exist here, so this is a big problem. NASA says that they've had enough aluminum plating coating in the interior and exterior of the ship to provide adequate protection to the astronauts. Plus, they say that the time spent there was so short that the radiation could not possibly have accumulated enough to kill them. Well, after spending billions of dollars trying to put people on the moon, you would think that they would have thought this through already. They must have some top secret materials we still don't know about. Number 8. Like a waving flag. Anyways, one of the first photos of the moon landing showed a puzzling image to viewers. People noticed that the American flag rippled as if there was a breeze. This is problematic since there should be no wind on the moon to cause this effect. This is one of the initial arguments for a fake moon landing.
But why would they need to fake a moon landing? Well, because the heavens or the sky, especially when regarded as a tangible thing, something you can touch, is a firmament, something hard, right? Images, right? Can they get past the firmament? They try to blast through it. Can they get past the firmament? Do they have to fake a moon landing? They can't get past the Van Allen belt, the firmament. They call it Van Allen belt. So it says here, the budget of NASA, right? They have money, they get money. As a federal agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, received its funding from the annual federal budget passed by the United States Congress. The following chart details the amount of federal funding allotted to NASA each year over its past 50 years of history to operate aeronautics research, unmanned and manned space exploration programs. That's what it's for, right? And we know they're not even going up there. Can't even pass the Van Allen belt. You know? So you see 19 billion. 2017, 19 billion. That's what they're getting. 19 billion a year to trick us, to show us Hollywood scenes, the studios. Who's making that money?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. But
We destroyed that technology, but it's a painful process to build that again. It's too painful with $19 billion.
Alright? $19 billion. $19 billion this year. By 2020, there'll be 196666. Alright? They can't go to the moon right now. We're in 2017, and they went to the moon with technology less than an iPhone 4. Supposedly. They went through the Van Allen belt. They went through all that bullshit. They came home safely. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing. So I don't know if you guys ever seen a rocket launch, but they always go at an angle. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. They look like they're going straight up to you. Is that going straight up to you? Where's it going? Where's it going? Where's it going? This ancient flat earth map has been hidden and locked away in a Japanese Buddhist temple, hidden for over 1,000 years. Alright, alright. It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true. Alright? He told you right there.